This is Right on the Money with Tom Mosley, founder of Mosley Wealth Management.
Our mission at Mosley Wealth Management is to help people make sure they never run out of income the rest of their life and they pay as little as they're legally required to pay in taxes.
Since 1995, Tom Mosley and his team have been creating comprehensive, custom financial plans to help you preserve what you've earned and pursue what you've envisioned.
In retirement, a lot of people have built a great lump sum. We call that your lumber yard. But you need a blueprint to put that lumber yard into a plan that you can build a retirement house to live in.
What's on your mind this week, Southern California? The stock market, taxes, inflation, income, Social Security, how to ease into the life of your dreams? Let's discover conservative financial strategies starting right now. This is your Right on the Money Radio Hour with Tom Mosley.
And a very happy weekend to you. You are listening to Right on the Money with Tom Mosley. He is the founder and president of Mosley Wealth Management, and I'm your host, Kristen Oakley. We're so glad you're joining us this weekend. Each week, Tom and I are committed to providing you with retirement planning solutions. We have a really fun and informative show for you this weekend. We're going to be talking, as we start off today's conversation, all about roller coasters. Intrigued? What in the world do roller coasters have to do with your retirement and making sure you have enough money to last you throughout the rest of your life? Well, that's what we're going to start off talking about today. Tom, my friend, always good to be here with you. How are you today?
I am doing well. I have a pack of Rolaids here, and I have some peppermint beadlets in case I get a little bit upset stomach from talking about roller coasters because I'm excited about this show.
I am too. And we were laughing before we started today about how we're excited to hear some stories about each other that have to do with roller coasters that we might not have heard before. And I know that our listeners are going to enjoy this insightful conversation as well. And really what it boils down to is that if there's one thing that makes retirees nervous, it's market volatility, specifically downside market volatility. Because let's face it, who doesn't love when the markets go up, right, Tom?
Right. And I even love on the roller coaster when you hear that click, 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 click,
Yep.
and it's clicking as it's climbing up. Nobody gets sick going up. It's when they get sick when it's coming down.
Right. And so for this analogy, if you're closing non-retirement or if you just got there or you're about to get there, we need to talk about what it's like to be on that roller coaster. So we're going to be talking about retirees and market volatility. But first, let's just talk about roller coasters. So I'm curious, Tom, are you a fan of them overall?
For about 15 years, Kristen, I was a youth director.
Mm-hmm.
And if you've got young people, and that's mostly the junior high, middle school, and high school, and you've got young people in your church, you're going to, as a youth director, spend a lot of time at amusement parks when you take them on activities. And literally, there was no kid that I ever had in my youth group. And we had huge youth groups, particularly in Odessa, Texas. And we would go to Six Flags Over Texas and Astro World, and we would go to the roller coasters that they had in San Antonio. And we'd come out to California even and go to Magic Mountain, and we'd go to Knott's Berry Farm, but they didn't have that many roller coasters back then. But I was the roller coaster champion. I mean, I was just one roller coaster to the next roller coaster to the next roller coaster to the next roller coaster. And the key word in that phrase is I was.
Oh, what
champion.
happened?
Well, I remember, my second batch of kids came along, and this was about 20 years ago, and we were at Knott's Berry Farm, and we'd taken a small group of our own kids. I wasn't a youth director at that time, and I got on Montezuma's Revenge, and I believe that was the name of it because it's the one that makes two loops where you turn upside down like a circle upside down, and it stops. And I remember being on there with my wife, and I looked over at Susan after we went through the first two loops, and I looked at her, and I don't know what color I was because I was like pale, white, yellow, green. I'm not sure, but I looked at her and I said, I'm so glad that's the last roller coaster I'm ever going to ride in my life because of the way I was feeling. And she looked at me and she said, but sweetie, we have to go back.
Right. through the loops. You can't stay
through the
there
loops.
hanging upside
Yeah,
down.
you can't get off on that end. So we went back through that loop, and I got to visit with a little, bench there right outside of Montezuma's Revenge. I spent about 2 hours there trying to get my
Oh,
stomach back.
no.
And
Oh.
that was the last roller coaster I ever rode, because when I was young,
Mhm.
I could ride the roller coaster after roller coaster. I could laugh. I could love it. I never once even thought about getting sick. But
Mhm.
when I got older, man, I
Mm.
tell you, I just can't take the roller coasters anymore at all.
Yeah. Well, I'm in my mid 40s and I still love roller coasters. Actually, you mentioned Knott's Berry Farm. I celebrated my ninth birthday there, and that was back in 1988, I believe, if my
Okay, so let me
math's
do the
correct,
math. Let's see.
right?
Yeah, I know how old you are, Kristen.
Yes. And that was the first time I went upside down on a roller coaster. And that was such a core memory, and I
Yep.
was so nervous, but my brother kept encouraging me and we went and I had so much fun. And I thought, why was I ever scared about this? And so to this day, I still love roller coasters. Thankfully, I still can ride them, but I keep wondering how much longer am I going to be able to do that and hopefully not hit that threshold where I can't enjoy them anymore.
And what I find is when I'm working with a lot of my clients refer me to their children.
Mm-hmm.
And when it comes to the market and market volatility and likening that to a roller coaster, I find that really good 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds, 35-year-olds, 40-year-olds, my own kids are 28 to 47. They can handle the market volatility and the roller coasters of the market going up and down.
Mm-hmm.
But what I also find is, like me physically, most of my clients who maybe before could ride any kind of market roller coaster and said, oh, I've made a lot of money when the market was down before.
Mm-hmm.
When they get close to retirement, they just don't have the stomach anymore for market volatility. And that's what we're
Right.
trying to show you and illustrate for you in this show today. And we're going to talk about it from all kinds of different ways.
Yes, I'm loving this analogy, and I think really, what folks listening need to understand is that there needs to be a plan in place for your retirement to help you navigate market volatility successfully. Because, for example, this has been the worst performance so far in several years for the stock market so far this year. And I think for folks who are either a few years from retirement or just starting into their retirement or thinking ahead of it, a lot of people are concerned. And I think a big question is, what if 2008 were to happen again? Right? I mean, are you hearing that from folks when they come in to meet with you?
Absolutely. I mean, here's what I heard just this past week. Is this the beginning of another big downfall in the
Mhm.
market? Because
Mhm.
we don't know. And February 19th, the market went into a tailspin. It's had some bounce backs. It's had some further downturns.
Mhm.
It's spinning a little bit out of control. It's listening to the news cycle. And so if you're sitting here and you're younger, and if the market is trading 10% lower, which it has recently or more, and if it's trading 10% lower and you're 30 or 40 years from retirement and you're working and you're adding to your 401k or your 403b, or if you don't have one of those, you're adding to your IRA or your Roth IRA, that's just a great time
Mhm.
because you're buying on sale. I mean, you're throwing your hands up in the air and saying, "Yippee! I'm going to position myself to make tons of money."
Mhm.
But if you are in what I would call the retirement red zone that we talk about, and we liken it to football. Red zone is when you get down inside the 20-yard line in football and you're just about to score. Well, the retirement red zone is when you're 2 or 3 or 4, or maybe 5 at the most years from retirement. And boy, that market goes into a spin. And if, like in 2000 to 2002, like in 2008, if you're worried that your 401k is going to again become a 201k because it loses half of its value, I mean, it's not so much fun. You're not throwing
Mhm.
your hands up in the air and you're not excited about it. When you're younger, you have a 4-letter word that everybody loves, T-I-M-E, time on your side.
Mm-hmm.
And as our friend Dave Bach has said over and over and over again, making money in the market has to do with time in the market, not timing the market.
Yes.
So if you're close to the red zone and about to retire, your timing is terrible with a market downturn. But if you've got 20 or 30 or 40 years until you retire, timing doesn't really matter yet because you've got plenty of time. And that's the issue. That's why people are so concerned. And yes, you should be concerned if, big if here, Kristen,
Mm-hmm.
if all of your money is still in the market and you don't really have a plan, you've just got a lump sum. You haven't told your retirement money what you want each of the sections of your retirement money to do for you. In other words, you haven't put together a real retirement blueprint. When the market goes into a 10, 12, 15% roller coaster, and you don't know whether this is going to be a loop-de-doop or it's just going to be a down and back up quickly, then you really should be concerned.
Yes. And here's the thing. This is what you help people do. I think a lot of times folks are concerned, but they're not sure what to do. This is what you all specialize in doing for folks, is putting together these plans so that no matter what the market is doing, folks can have the peace of mind that comes with seeing this blueprint build out, to know where their income's coming from, to know how they can withstand whatever market volatility will come their way. Because here's the reality. We know the market only does one of two things, right? It goes up, it goes down. Well, and I guess sometimes it can go sideways, right? So maybe three things,
right?
But that is the reality. That's the given. But how you are prepared to handle it can make all the difference between that fear of running out of money and that peace of mind of knowing you're going to be okay.
See, if you're just in the market, then you're totally up to the ups and downs of the market. But if you have a plan that addresses lifetime income, where's it coming from? Do we have enough? Will it last? Inflation, what's going to happen if the market does go back into a spin and we have higher inflation? Where are my investments? Am I going to lose 50% in a downturn? What about taxes? When I start taking the money out of the IRA and the 401k, how much am I going to pay for taxes? Healthcare, how much is it going to cost us to get out of here? And legacy, leaving it. Those 6 things are what we're talking about when we're talking about building a plan. That's far different than an account in the stock market. When you get to retirement, you need a retirement blueprint.
If you're listening right now, do you have a plan? Do you have a retirement blueprint? If not, today is the day for you to pick up the phone and call and schedule your time to come in and sit down with one of the all-star advisors from Mosley Wealth Management and have your very own complimentary retirement blueprint built for you. 888-930-5609 is the number to call. Stay with us. We've got a lot more to cover on today's show. We'll be back with more right after this.
Which will you spend more money on in retirement, food or healthcare? Do you take your investments out of the stock market now that you're retired? How do you know if you've saved enough to stay retired? Will your Social Security check be reduced in the future? How do you produce income from your nest egg to fight costs like taxes and inflation? At Mosley Wealth Management, Tom Mosley and the team take the guessing out of retirement planning by devising a written plan that accounts for all of your concerns. The bigger question, are you going to be okay in retirement? Find out the answers to your retirement questions by calling Tom Mosley of Mosley Wealth Management, 888-930-5609. Income, investments, Social Security, Medicare, longevity, health care. We cover these solutions and all of those other questions on your mind to answer, are you going to be okay in retirement? Call Tom Mosley and Mosley Wealth Management for your own complimentary retirement review, 888-930-5609.
Call the Mosley Wealth Management team at 888-930-5609. That's 888-930-5609. Welcome back. You're listening to Right on the Money with Tom Mosley. I'm your host, Kristen Oakley. We're so glad you're joining us today. If you're just tuning in, Today's show is all about roller coasters. Well, more specifically, the analogy of roller coasters and your retirement with market volatility. And before we dive back into this important conversation and what that means for your retirement, Tom, I'm curious because I'm sure our listeners want to know, back when you were able to ride all the roller coasters, what was your all-time favorite and why?
My all-time favorite was a roller coaster I never rode and I never saw. Okay, can you
Okay.
believe that? All right, listen to this. I have heard so many stories about at Long Beach, they used to have this roller coaster called the Pike. And
Mm,
it was before OSHA and a lot of regulations. And from what I understand, this Pike went out over the water and it was a great
mm.
roller coaster. And I guess about every 2 or 3 years, one of the cars would just fly off and
Oh,
they'd lose
gosh.
somebody.
No.
And so they would shut it down for a while and they'd open it back up and they'd open it back up for a few years. And the stories I've told is until they lost another car and they lost somebody. So that would be the kind of roller coaster when I was in my, let's call it roller coaster prime.
Mm-hmm.
I so much wish that I was back in the 30s and 40s and I could ride that Pike because that would be the kind of roller coaster I love.
Oh my goodness. Well, maybe it's a good thing you never got to ride it because you're still here today.
Well,
That
the
sounds
problem is,
terrifying.
Well, yeah, but here's the problem. The problem is a lot of people that are listening to me, and you might have ridden the Pike, and
Mhm.
when it comes to your finances, you're still potentially riding the financial Pike
Mm.
roller coaster because you're going to lose a car one of these times. You're going to lose it because you're too far and too heavily invested in the market. So that's what we're talking about. That
Yeah.
volatility that you maybe don't want to take anymore. You don't want to do it anymore.
And that's what we want to help prevent for people. You know, it's funny, Tom. My mom grew up in Long Beach. I've never heard her talk about this. I'm going to have to ask her about this later
Ask your
today.
mom about the Pike. I'll
I
guarantee
will.
you she's heard about it.
All right. Well, that brings us to, I think, the next question that a lot of folks face. I mean, there's millions of people out there that when they see the market take a downturn, they immediately want to move to cash. Now, that presents its own set of challenges. So let's talk about that. Is that a smart move? Is it a dangerous move? And why?
Well, I think you've got to go back to the time question, Kristen. You've got to say,
Mhm.
when do I need this money? And before you go to the time question, though, I think it is not without saying again what we mentioned at the end of the last segment. You need to have a plan in place before you have this big downturn so that you're comfortable and you're prepared for a downturn. The $8 million question is, not that it costs that much to repair a roof, but when do you fix the roof? The best
Mhm.
time to fix the roof is before it starts raining. So
Yes.
that's why we say get a plan in place. But if the plan is in place and then the market starts to do a dramatic downturn. Recently, I had a person email me, one of my clients. We have
Mhm.
very few clients who ever contact us when the market goes down because we have plans in place, not just accounts, not just
Right.
throw it in the market and hope.
Yep.
But we did have one of my long-term clients sent me an email on a Friday, and I was out of town, so I didn't actually get it until I got back into town on Wednesday and was there ready to respond to it.
Mhm.
And so the email on Friday was, the market's been down like 7 times in a row. Should we go to cash?
Mm.
That was on a Friday.
Mhm.
That Friday, the market ended up dramatically up. The Monday and the Tuesday, and even the Wednesday, when I finally got back in the office and responded, the market had already rebounded over 1,500 points in the Dow Jones. Now, what if I'd been home on Friday?
Mm.
What if I'd have said, yes, let's take your money out when the market is way down or down 10 or 11% like it was at the time? Then we would have missed out on a 4.5% bounce back
Mhm.
up in the market. So if you have time, you got to listen to this. If you need the money in the next 1 year to a year and a half, say you've sold your house and you didn't quickly buy something else, you didn't do an exchange, but you said, I want to leave that money and that powder dry so that in the next year or so I can buy another house, then that money needs to be safe anyway. It doesn't need to be
subjected to
invested.
the roller coaster, right?
Right. It
Yeah.
doesn't need to be on the roller coaster. It needs to be on the Ferris wheel where it's more defined. Okay. And
Mhm.
you're going to go around and you're going to make a little bit and going to get a little thrill. It's not going to get the thrill of the roller coaster, but you're not going to get upset at your stomach like you will on the roller coaster either. So if you need the money in a short period of time, it probably shouldn't have been in the market to start with. But if
Mhm.
it's long-term money that you need over time, it's not timing the market. And
Mhm.
what we mean is when you decide to pull out when the market's 11% down, number one, you might have been smart,
Mm.
but you might not have been smart. What does it depend on? It depends on what the market does right after you pull out.
Right.
If you pull out and the market goes down, continues to go down, hey, maybe you were smart, but then you've got to be smart again to know when does it hit the bottom
Mhm.
and when does it start to come back up. So you've got to be smart twice,
Yep.
okay?
Yep.
And so what have you done if you pull out when the market's down 11% and it immediately bounces back up? Then you have locked in your losses. So what we would prefer to do is to have a overall plan. I'm going back to that again. Have a plan set in place that covers you for when the market is up or when the market is down. Because the one thing I can assure you, Kristen, the market is going to be up and the market is going to be down. Blessed be the name of the market, I guess you would say. But
Mhm.
it's going to go up and down. So you need a more stable plan rather than just trying to time it out and time it in. And you're taking that chance on being right twice. And many, many times what I've seen is people are wrong and they're wrong twice when they try to play the market. I've had people in recent years, back a few years ago when we had Brexit and England came out of the European Union, I had several people call, oh, I'm scared of Brexit. Let me pull my money out. They
Mhm.
pull their money out and immediately the market it took off. I've had people back in the election of 2016 where President Trump went into the office for the first time and they wanted to pull their money out. They pull their money out. What happened? 2017 was one of the best years ever in the market. And some of them were sitting on the sidelines because we'll do what you ultimately tell us to do. But we're going to recommend that you do the right thing, which is most of the time, stay in the market if you've got time. I've had other people when President Biden went in and was elected in 2020, oh, the market's going to go to pot. It sort of depends on which channel, 40 or 41, you
Right.
listen to.
For real.
Because you're going to be ready to jump off the cliff or jump off the bridge. Just be more stable with your investments. Have a
Mhm.
plan and stick to that plan. When's the best time to fix the roof and get the plan? When there are any issues going on, but fix that plan up so that you're prepared for the downturns and the upswings.
And just a reminder, you can call today and schedule your time to receive your very own complimentary retirement blueprint if you are needing that kind of plan for you. That number to call is 888-930-5609. Tom, you were talking about if people pull out when the market goes down, that's when they lock in the loss. And then inevitably, when folks try to time the market and jump back in, a couple things, again, you did such a great job of explaining this, but one, now you're having to buy when the market is higher. And two, you have to time it right. And so often, some of the best days in the market happen right on the heels of the worst day in the market. And there's so much data that shows if you were to miss just the 10 best performing days over a certain time period, you would have missed out on a huge part of the gain of what the market's done. That's why jumping in and jumping back out again just does not make a lot of sense. And so, I think another question that retirees often have is, okay, well, do I still need to be in the market at all? Right. And that really depends on someone's situation because that is where the best growth can happen. But I think from this conversation, what we're saying is no one should have all of their money in the market, correct?
Right. I think you need to be diversified. That's what we mean by a plan. If you've
Mhm.
got all of your money just in an IRA or a 401k, you're all in the market. I
Right.
mean, you're all in the market. You haven't diversified and addressed your income. You don't have different levers you can pull as inflation would hit. Your investments many times, if you just stayed in the market, are just as risky as they were when you were 40 years of age. You still got to deal with the taxes that are going to come along. So you've got those first four of what we do in a retirement blueprint that you're still facing. But a lot of people say, well, why do I even have to be in the market? And
Mm-hmm.
some of those people don't. They don't have
Mm-hmm.
to be in the market. They've got such an awesome, massive amount of money. They don't need any growth. They just don't need any loss. And I'm talking about awesome, tremendous amounts of money. A lot
Mm-hmm.
of it has to do, and when I talk about how much money you've got, that gets down to risk capacity. Can you afford to take a risk, or do you need to afford the risk? You know, some people, if you've got $4 million and you need $5,000 a year, I'm going to be extreme here. No,
Mm-hmm.
you don't have to be in the market. You can lock it in real safely. But if you're marginal, which most people are, you need some that's in the bank. You need some that's income protected, and you also need some that's in the market, because you're probably going to outlive it if you don't grow it some.
Mm-hmm.
And that money that's in the market is your long term. Your income protected is what you're drawing for your income, maybe for a lifetime or maybe just for 3 to 5 years. But that's how you diversify a plan. You start building part of it that's going to become your paycheck, and part of it that's your playcheck. Once you satisfy your paycheck for life by settling your income and allowing for inflation, then you can take the rest of your investments and turn that into your playcheck, your go have fun money. And you better do that early, and you better
Mm-hmm.
have a plan so that you'll have the comfort and the peace of mind to go ahead and spend the money when you're in your 60s, because you know you're not going to run out of income later. So, do you need to be in the market? Almost always, yes, but sometimes no. This is where you need to come in, sit down with one of our all-star advisors, and get your retirement blueprint.
And that number to call is 888-930-5609. We'll be back with more right after this.
With today's rising interest rate environment, have you considered refinancing your retirement? When interest rates go low, you might be able to refinance your homes, your car loans, and even your credit card rates, because it could help you keep more of your own money each month. When interest rates go up, it may make sense to refinance your retirement. Higher interest rates could provide income opportunities that you may not be aware of. What works for your portfolio during low interest rate environments may not work for you in a high interest rate environment. So find out if a retirement refi could work better for you. Don't look down at today's higher interest rates. Find out if a retirement refi could work for you. Call Tom Mosley of Mosley Wealth Management at 888-930-5609. That's 888-930-5609. With rising interest rates, it might be time for you to refi your retirement.
Do you know how you'll generate income from your investments along with your Social Security in retirement? In our opinion, it's never too early to start the income planning process for your future. An income plan can help you work towards creating a steady stream of income to support you throughout your retirement years. Don't leave your financial future to chance. Take control today and start income planning for your retirement. Call the team at Mosley Wealth Management so we can help you design a complimentary written income plan to help you live the retirement you've always wanted. Call 888-930-5609. That's 888-930-5609.
For your own no-cost retirement blueprint, call Tom Mosley of Mosley Wealth Management, 888-930-5609. That's 888-930-5609.
Welcome back, Southern California. You're listening to Right on the Money with Tom Mosley. He is the founder and president of Mosley Wealth Management, and I'm your host, Kristen Oakley. Today, we are having a very fun conversation. In fact, during the break, we were both realizing, oh my goodness, we're already halfway done with today's show. Where has the time gone? Because we've been talking about roller coasters and using that analogy as a powerful way to understand how to successfully navigate market volatility, especially as you are nearing, approaching, and entering retirement. But before we dive back into that conversation, Tom, I know it's that time of the week where we get to share with our listeners about the upcoming live events that you have happening throughout Southern California.
Try to spread them all over the place, sprinkling them around our Encino office, our Arcadia office, our Ontario office, our Anaheim main office, and then our big office that we've just located and enlarged down in San Diego. Get on our website, Mosley Wealth Management, find out where we're going to be, sign up for the class so we know to bring the material, and we have everything ready. Last Saturday we got inundated up in Northridge with people coming in, and they all came in right at the end too, right at the time to start. And we almost didn't have enough material because people decided to come, which is always a good thing.
Right.
But just know that if you come and get there early, you might get somebody's material that signed up, and they might get there a little bit late and not have material. So let us know you're coming, and we'd love to meet you. We'd love to greet you. Some of the people stayed after, and we just talked for a while. We'd love to talk to you. We'd love for you to come to these events.
Tom, thank you for sharing the list of upcoming events. Again, if you want to see this list for yourself, we invite you to visit the website, mosleywealthmanagement.com. That's MOSLEY wealthmanagement.com. All of the events are completely free to you, but as Tom said, we do ask that you go ahead and register so the team can be ready and prepared for you. Well, Tom, we're going to be continuing our conversation here about market volatility, but real quick, I have to ask, since your office is so close to Disneyland, back in the days when you were riding roller coasters, did you have a favorite ride there?
Oh yeah, it had to be Space Mountain.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
that was the best one going. I have, believe it or not, lived here this time for 35 years, and I've never yet been to California Adventures. So I don't know what the roller coasters are there. I really don't. So
you have to go, especially, are you a Cars fan? Do you like that movie?
Yeah, I've seen the movie many times.
Okay,
yes,
so
having children at home.
Cars Land alone, in my opinion, is worth the price of admission to California Adventure. And I think you could still do that ride because it doesn't go upside down or anything like that. I think you would thoroughly enjoy it.
Okay, good.
It's my dad's favorite. And he's about to turn 80. So that tells you something.
Okay, good. I'll have to do that. I might watch the movie Cars before I go, just so that I can,
fully
know what's
appreciate
going on.
it. Yeah, I would. There's so much attention to detail. Anyway, I could go on forever. It's one of our favorite places. So I highly recommend. All right. But going back, we were talking about creating paychecks and playchecks before the break. And I think that is the biggest question, right? How do you help your clients provide a consistent income strategy despite market ups and market downs?
Okay, let's do a dive into income strategy. The first thing most everyone has, not everyone, but most everyone has, is Social Security.
Mm-hmm.
If you are in America and you have a household in America and you're average, then 41% of that household's income comes from Social Security. Maybe one social if you're single.
Mm-hmm.
It may be one social if you're married and one spouse did not work outside the home, maybe two Social Securities, okay? But you have Social Security. Next question, are you one of the 1 out of 6 people that still has a pension?
Mm-hmm.
If so, that's income. And again, these are simply in the form of a financial vehicle called an annuity. An annuity is something that's going to pay you something every month for as long as you live. There's your paycheck. There's your paycheck from the Social Security. There's the paycheck from the pension. And then a third question that some of our people have, do you have rental income? Because most months out of the year, they say that with rentals, and I do have rental property myself, you can pretty much count on rental income coming in maybe 9 or 10 months out of the year, and the rest of the months you have to spend for maybe the house is vacant, or if you're good at keeping people in the rental, then you have to spend that much money on repairs and things like that. But do you have rental income? All of those are like annuities. Now, when we add that up, and we match that up with your budget, and part of the thing that you have to do in order to really put together a retirement blueprint, I mean, if you want to wing it You want to ride the roller coaster? You want to ride the pike without a seatbelt and maybe go flying off and lose it all? Then, don't have a budget and know what you're spending, and don't designate and know what income you have coming in. Now, this is building an income plan. This is just the first of 6 parts of a retirement blueprint. Now, if you've got more than enough income coming in with your social, pensions, rentals, anything else that's coming in, then you're in pretty good shape, at least now, for income. But if you've got a gap, then many people are realizing now, with the volatility of the market, let me work it back into the roller coaster idea that we're talking about on this show. If you've got less than enough income to meet all of your budgetary needs, then that's where many people are seeing the wisdom to going to a particular kind of income annuity called a fixed indexed annuity. It will pay you a guaranteed income for as long as you live. If you're married, it will pay, if you set it up this way, as long as your spouse lives. If both of you pass away before you've spent all your money, then all the money that's left in the account will go to your heirs. If you've outlived all of your money, here's the nice thing. It's different than any IRA account at any big box firms. If you put that income money in a fixed indexed annuity for your income, it will pay you guaranteed income for the rest of your life, even after you run out of your money. And that, Kristen, is the answer to your question about, in a volatile market, how do you make sure that your income is going to be certain and be set? Well, you've got social, which is solid. I think they'll make it solid. You've got your pension that's insured. You've got rental income. And then some people add on that fixed indexed annuity, and they know then they've got the income they need as it grows through the years to take care of inflation. They've got the income they need, that their income is secure. And so therefore, you can take the rest of it, the investments that are left, and you can put those in the market. You can ride the volatility of the market because you know your income, your paycheck is secure, your paycheck is in the market, so let it ride. And over a period of time, the market has always been very good to us. Given enough time, the market has generally had an upward turn rather than a downward turn, given enough time.
I'm so glad that you took the time to explain all this, Tom. And I know that for some people, annuity is a loaded word. And I think some folks hear that and they go, but that just sounds too good to be true. What would you say to someone who's maybe wrestling with that very question right now?
Well, you know what? When I was growing up, I hated shots. I dreaded shots. I hated when I was going to go to the doctor and I knew I was going to get a shot.
I was like, yes, let's clarify what kind of shot.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, because yes, that's what kind of shot. When you're older, you like shots, right? But no, you have with a fixed indexed annuity, annuities have been castigated. People are billionaires investing your money in the market at risk because they've said, I hate annuities. And they claimed, well, we don't sell commissionable products. Well, they don't sell Medicare. They don't sell life insurance. They don't sell long-term care. They don't sell annuities because all of those are commissionable products. How can you build a well-rounded financial plan if you don't take care of things? You insure your house, you insure your car, you insure your life, you insure your long-term care, you insure almost everything. Why not insure your income for the rest of your life? So I just have to tell you just very bluntly, if you are so afraid of the term annuity, then you haven't checked them out properly, because some people check them out and they say, why didn't I know about these? It's because they've had such negative publicity. Get over it. It may be the very best thing in the world, just like that shot I used to hate to take at the doctor's office. It was what cured me. It's what gave me a plan so that I could live and I could be healthy. Same way financially. Live and be healthy. Have a well-rounded plan. Do you need an annuity? I don't know. You might not, but you don't know unless you're open to investigating them.
And the best way for you to figure out what could be right for you, because again, this is not a cookie cutter approach. There's no one size fits all. When you come in and meet with the team of Mosley Wealth Management to receive your very own complimentary retirement blueprint, they are going to start with a blank piece of paper and they are going to build it personalized and customized for you. So if you're curious of what could be right for you, this is why we encourage you to pick up the phone and call and schedule your time to come in and receive yours. 888-930-5609 is that number to call. Stay with us. We'll be back with more right after this.
Is having $1 million enough to retire? For years, many have considered this to be the goal amount to have for retirement savings, $1 million. But that's the $1 million question. Is that enough for today's modern retiree? Are you sure you've saved enough for a 25 or 30-year retirement? Are you concerned about covering large expenses, including taxes and long-term care? If so, you're not alone. But there is a solution. With a comprehensive financial plan, you can take control of your finances to help you achieve your long-term goals. At Mosley Wealth Management, let us help you work towards peace of mind by implementing a complete retirement strategy. Call Tom Mosley and the team of Mosley Wealth Management right away to receive your complimentary, comprehensive written financial plan. 888-930-5609. That's 888-930-5609.
Call Mosley Wealth Management for your own complimentary retirement blueprint and written financial plan. 888-930-5609. That's 888-930-5609. Welcome back, Southern California. You're listening to Right on the Money with Tom Mosley. I'm your host, Kristen Oakley. If you're just joining us today, Tom and I have been having a lively conversation using the analogy of roller coasters and what that means regarding market volatility and your retirement. Now, before the break, Tom, you did such a great job of explaining how an annuity, the right kind of annuity, a fixed indexed annuity, can be helpful in this conversation of market volatility. And I know that there's one more thing that we were talking about during the break that you wanted to make sure our listeners were aware of as well.
The major thing I want you to look at, some of you are out there and you've got an annuity, and it may be the dreaded variable annuity. Now, that's a roller coaster in itself because you're in the stock market, plus you've got a pretty heavy fee for the insurance product that's in. A lot of people, when they say, I hate annuities, that's the annuity that they hate because it makes the advisor who sold that to you a ton of money. You should come in and set up a retirement blueprint appointment with us just so we can show you how much you're paying in fees for that variable annuity. That's not what we're talking about. In fact, let's talk about Rollercoaster. The fixed indexed annuity that we use for income with most of our clients, those do not have the roller coaster effect. They go up and you get part of the gain when the market goes up, but when the market takes its roller coaster and goes down, you stay flat. I've said for many years, zero is your hero because when the market was down like in 2008 and around 2008, it was down 54%. If you were in a fixed indexed annuity, all of our people who were in fixed indexed annuities didn't lose any money because it stays flat. That's what you get, that benefit for not getting all of the gain when the market goes up. So it's a roller coaster, Kristen, that goes up but doesn't go down.
So it sticks, as you said earlier in the show, that's your favorite part of the roller coaster anyway, right? Is when it's tick, going up.
Going up. But some of you even have a fixed indexed annuity that you might have bought 3 years ago, 4 years ago. You might have invested in it 7 years ago. And you need to look at that because just like in the bank 7 years ago when interest rates with the Federal Reserve were really low and banks were paying almost nothing for CDs. Now they're paying more for CDs. So are the insurance companies are paying a lot more for some of the fixed indexed annuities that are out there right now. So you may be able, it's a terrible time to refinance your house, but it may be a great time to consider refinancing your annuity. You may be able to get a bonus. There's some annuities we've got right now that are giving 20% real money vested in bonuses over the period of the contract. I just recently had a couple put $300,000 into one of those. Immediately their account value went to $360,000. It was a bonus. You say,
Wow.
why are they doing that? There's so much competition for the money that's going in. Somebody says, how popular are those things? Here are some facts from LIMRA, which is the life insurance company that looks at all the numbers. In 2019, just 5 years before, there was $125 billion went into fixed indexed annuities. In 2024, there was $432 billion went into fixed indexed annuities. So more than 3 times as much increase in just 5 years. That's pretty popular, Tom.
I know
It's
not all those people
popular.
can be wrong, right?
That's right.
Yep.
It's pretty popular. The companies are realizing that. They're competing for your money and they're paying bonuses. And some of them, you say, well, we checked out long-term care. We can't get long-term care. They don't have long-term care. They don't have long-term care. Let me make sure that's clear. That's the reason I said it twice. But they do have an activities of daily living benefit, so that if you hit 2 of those 6 activities of daily living that you can't do, or your spouse can't do, if it's your annuity, then they will double the payout for up to a 5-year period. So, man, there's some benefits. There's some what I call bells and whistles on these things. So if you still, well, I always heard that you're supposed to hate annuities. Well, just keep hating them because nobody can help you. But if you're open to looking at what's available to you, there may be ways to guarantee and ensure your income for life. And that's the core of a solid retirement blueprint.
And, Tom, as you were talking, it just reminded me the importance of folks getting a second opinion to see if one of these products could be right for them. And especially for folks who have an existing annuity contract, I know that's what you will gladly do is have people come in. You can review what they have, see if it is in fact in their best interest. Or if there's another option out there that could be an even better fit for them, you're going to be able to let them know that, right?
Right. And Kristen, you're the one that always brings this up. You always say the person who gave you the first opinion is not somebody who can give you the second opinion.
Correct.
I mean, when you go to the doctor and the doctor gives you a diagnosis, you don't say, well, could I come back and see you next week and get another diagnosis? Because that doctor is going to give you his or her same diagnosis. You need to go to a different doctor, maybe a specialist. And that's what we do when it comes to retirement planning, not just lump sum, put it in the market planning. When it comes to retirement planning, maybe you need a specialist to look at it and say, how can I guarantee my income for the rest of my life? We can do that.
Yes. And so again, that number to call to schedule your time to come in and discuss all the above is 888-930-5609. And you will be able to walk away with a complimentary written plan in your hands. Well, Tom, I know there's another concept that we need to talk about as we wrap up today's discussion about roller coasters and market volatility for retirees. And that's the concept of sequence of returns. It's interesting because I had been in this industry for over a decade before I had even heard of that term. I think it had been talked around in the previous company that I had worked for, but this is something that really folks need to understand as it pertains to protecting themselves from market volatility. So can you explain what the sequence of returns risk is and how folks can navigate through that successfully?
Yeah, I think it's when a group of people are standing around there talking about an issue and somebody says something negative or that could go wrong, and people say, don't say that, don't mention that, because I think what happens is when you put all your money in the market and you're basing your retirement on a hope strategy, you hope it continues to grow, you hope the sequence of the market is hit correctly. And I'll talk a little bit about what I mean in just a minute on that. But you hope it's going to work out. But you also know that in the bottom of your heart that it might not work out. Now, let me give you a scenario.
Okay.
There's what's called a Monte Carlo model. It's almost what
Mhm.
all of the big box firms use. And it says put your money in the market. In fact, if you put it in the S&P 500 and you're going to make 6% a year average. That's what the Monte Carlo model says and is written. And you're going to be able to allow for 3% inflation. That's what the Monte Carlo model says. And you're going to be able to take out, first of all, the Monte Carlo model says 4% per year. So if you've got $1 million, you retired in 1996 with $1 million, you thought it's going to grow at 6% per year. Inflation's going to be 3%, so you take a little bit more out each year. And, you're percolating along, things are going well. And I want to tell you, it did work well because why? The sequence after 1996 went up, 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 up with the dot-com boom. Okay?
Right.
But then it popped. So if you had a coworker who retired in 1996 and you went to their broker and they put them on the Monte Carlo model, I mean, they're feasting. They're doing so well because they hit the sequence going up. But if you decided to retire in 1999 and you followed that pattern exactly, $1 million, you took out 4% a year, increased it by 3% for inflation, depending on it growing 6% per year, tragedy hit. Because 3 years in a row, 2000, 2001, 2002, the market went down a total of 47%. You hit the wrong sequence. Now, why did I pick 96 and 99, giving both sides $1 million doing the same thing? The person who retired in 96 and hit the right sequence, by the year 2018, they've taken out $1.4 million, do the math, and they've still got $1.5 million in their $1 million account. They hit the right sequence. But the person doing the same thing in 1999, they're out of money in 2018 because they hit the wrong sequence and immediately faced almost a 50% downturn. If you haven't looked or haven't been talked to about the danger of the sequence of return, what is the market going to do the first 1, 2, or 3 years after you retire? When the market goes down 50%, even if you're not taking any money out of your retirement funds, if they're invested in the market and the market goes down 50%, 3 years later, you've got half as much money, no matter, and you haven't taken out anything, but it's in addition to what you've taken out. That sequence of return, Kristen, not only can, but it will kill you if you hit it incorrectly. How are you going to hit it? Like we said before, the time to get the roof fixed is before it starts raining. Get a plan in place that allows for you hitting the wrong sequence, that still allows you to have a great retirement, even if you don't hit the market right, because you're not totally dependent on the market the way you probably have for the last 30 or 40 years. We can help you build one, but you've got to pick up the phone, call us, and get on our schedule.
And that number to call is 888-930-5609. You mentioned earlier, Tom, that your clients don't really call you all when the market's going crazy because they know that that plan is in place and they don't have to be afraid no matter what's happening out there in the market. So if you would like that same kind of peace of mind that comes from having that solid plan, we invite you to pick up the phone and call today to schedule your very own complimentary retirement blueprint. 888-930-5609. Hey, thanks so much for joining us this weekend. We appreciate you being here. Be safe, be happy, be blessed, and we look forward to being back with you next week here on Right on the Money with Tom Mosley.
Investment advisory services offered by duly registered individuals through Mosley Wealth Management Incorporated. Mosley Wealth Management and Mosley Insurance and Financial Services are affiliated companies by common ownership license number OB61811. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refers to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength, claims paying ability of the issuing carrier. This content is intended for for informational and educational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the needs of an individual situation. All hypothetical examples are provided for illustrative purposes only. They do not represent real-life scenarios. Mosley Insurance and Financial Services, nor its agents or representatives, may give tax or legal advice. Individuals should consult with a qualified professional for guidance before making any investment decisions. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. Some of the information provided may be from one or more third parties, which we believe to be reliable sources, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by Mosley Insurance and Financial Services.